flight?
We're in full flight. So your obsession back from childhood is Agatha Christie.
Yeah, it goes back probably to a relationship with my mum. My mum, when we went away in summer holidays, and we very often went to Malaysia, and there was a little station shop that sold toys and books, and I would always get a little toy car or something like that, and my mum would always get an Agatha Christie book. But it was kind of strange because she would go, I mean, I've read this one before, but you know, she would get another copy of, you know, an Agatha Christie book, and then I started watching the Margaret Rutherford versions of the Miss Marple stories as films, and every adaptation of an Agatha Christie thing that's ever made, good or bad, and there's some really bad ones out there, I have to watch. You know, and I usually will watch more than once, even when they're really bad. So I think in some ways, it's about going back to a place where I felt good and safe. And although it's about murder and stuff, it was something very comforting. It would be just me and my mum in her living room, me sitting on the floor at her knees, watching this puzzle kind of unfold in front of us. And then you'd go, oh, and you get the reveal. And I guess for real hardcore mystery fans, and I think I am a bit like that, it's not that I love every mystery going, but the really great ones, I take more pleasure out of watching the second time and the third time, because I love to see how all the pieces are put together. And one of the strange people probably would think, well, that wouldn't cross over to Douglas's life as a musician, but I think it very much has. I think it's informed it. Particularly, one of my favourite Agatha Christie things ever is the movie adaptation of one of her favourite stories that she wrote called Endless Night, which stars Hayley Mills and Hal Bennett and Britt Ekland and George Sanders. And it's got an amazing score by Bernard Herrmann, who I guess is most famous for his music. It went, and Psycho, but he wrote so much great music for Citizen Kane, Vertigo, Taxi Driver, so many things, but the music in this just tears my heart out. And it's a real kind of, it's a mystery, but it's also a tragic love story and a story about obsession. And these are all things that play into my world, because I think people who know me go, obsession, that's Douglas, you know, he can't be interested in something, he's obsessed by it. And a lot of people, again, like, will bandy about the word, oh, genius. People go, oh, I'm obsessed by that. And then you question them and you go, that's like a passing interest to me. But, you know, I'm properly obsessed. So I would really recommend this. And yeah, lyrics, ideas for songs, themes for songs have came out of this movie. And it's also been a big thing for friendships. Like when I became really friendly with Norman Blake, is one of the most important relationships in my life. As a collaborator and a friend, he was also obsessed by this movie.
Wow.
And then I met people like Finlay MacDonald, who ended up being in BMX Bandits, other musical friends, who I think we were all probably the same age and all saw it the same Monday night on the BBC. And it was one of those movies you went, what? You know, and it felt, it was a mystery, but it kind of felt, it was kind of deep as well. And it's continued with me, you know. I still love, it's not just Agatha Christie, I love a lot of other mysteries as well. And I like to solve mysteries that are going on around me. You know, I watch people and go, I think I know what's really going on here. Not that I think people are planning, you know, it's not like Stephen Pastel's planning to do in one of the members of Teenage Fan Club. It's not that kind of mysteries going on, but just little kind of things that are going on between people and relationships and people that I'll see in shops that I don't even know. I'm almost looking for clues.
So would this be your first obsession, first of many obsessions?
I think it was probably very much up there. And yeah, music, it's funny again, for all these things, music was a part of it. Because, you know, the Margaret Rutherford films, which had that great played in kazoo, I hasten to add, theme, you know. So I think it was a real one. And it was also, for me, I like obsessions best when you can share them with other people, you know. So that's why, you know, if I fall in love with a band, like when I fell in love with the band Tennis Coats or whatever, I would have to tell everybody. You know, social media is good for me in that way as well. I don't want it to be an exclusive thing. I want to bring everybody in and share this wonderful thing, whether it's people, music, art, films, you know. So the fact that I shared that with my mum and we had a very kind of close and good relationship, it was like a lovely kind of world that we could enter, a lovely world of murder and deceit.
Apart from the murder and deceit, do you think with what you've done with your own art, with BMX Bandits, you kind of created one of these worlds that people could enter?
Yeah, it's strange. I think that for me, that's always been one of the things I really believed in with art, that if you're dissatisfied with the world that you find yourself in, one of the things that an artist do, I mean, artists will do things like, you know, will create works of protest, whatever, but they'll also do a thing of they'll protest by creating their own world that they and their friends can exist in. In fact, I've actually got this is sort of cross-pollinating here, because one of my other big obsessions is the world of the Muppets and Jim Henson and things. And there's a great quote, which I think is very true for the way I see these things, from Kermit the Frog from the first Muppets movie, where he says, "I have a dream, and it's about singing and dancing and making people happy. And it's a kind of dream that gets better with the more people you share it with. And I found a whole group of friends who have the same dream, and that makes us sort of like a family." And that's sort of how I see BMX Bandits, but even beyond BMX Bandits, it's how I see a lot of the friendships over years I've formed with people like yourself, or Stephen Pastel, or Tim Burgess, and various other, you know, musical friends I've met along the way. It feels sort of like we're a musical family. And so when we meet again, and sometimes it's a big, big gap, it feels like there's a common thing that will always remain between us. You know, we're on the same side. We're part of this family that's not about blood, it's about something else.
Also probably the same way of making different types of art, but for the same kind of reasons, I suppose.
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, and, you know, I think a lot of people would listen to quite a lot of the people even I mentioned there, and other people I feel that connection with, and from the outside they go, but that all sounds really, really different. But again, there's just a kind of attitude, and I think a thing about love and truth that they all kind of share, and something that they're all aspiring to, which is a kind of a shared goal. And so I feel that connection with other artists, artists who I guess are dead, other artists who I'll probably never ever meet. But you know, so yeah, mysteries, it seems in some ways, I think to a lot of people, like, why would you be so obsessed with that? But again, there's a lot of themes in these mysteries of love and longing, and Agatha Christie would bring real life things into her mysteries. The tragic Hollywood star Gene Tierney, one of Agatha Christie's best mysteries, A Mirror Cracked from Side to Side, is inspired in tragic events that happened in Gene Tierney's life. Gene Tierney's not a character in it, you know. And then there's like the kidnapping of I'm trying to remember the name of the guy who flew over the Atlantic in his plane, and his child was kidnapped, and all of these real life things would come into the work, but come into the work in a kind of unobvious way. And I think, again, when I'm making music myself, I might not actually refer directly to something that's happening in the world around us, but it definitely has an effect, you know, and the work's a consequence of the good and the bad that's happening out there.
The idea that she was writing these books, was this the first time that you heard people could be creative, you know, create other worlds? Or would that be like an inspiration for you eventually, like 10 years later, to make music? Your version of writing books would be writing songs?
Yeah, it's strange because I'm not really, compared to a lot of friends, I'm not really a books person, but I have probably read every Agatha Christie book. And it's probably because they're quite, I find that world easy to go into. I also find a romance in a lot of that kind of era. I mean, life was really hard for some people, but you're probably getting the country manor and, you know, a slightly, I don't know, a slightly fantastic version of that kind of world in those times. But, you know, I love the way people dress, I love the style, I love the music event. But, yeah, I'm interested also. She had a life where very early on she had a major heartbreak and she went into hiding for about 2 weeks, and it became a massive mystery all around the world that at that time the most successful author in the world vanished. It was like an Agatha Christie mystery came to life, became a big tabloid story. The police were searching for everyone, searching for rewards, and it captured the imagination of the whole world. It was like a media event. If it had been in social media now, it would have been trending non-stop, you know, on Twitter. But there was also something about the kind of visuals as well. You'd get, I mean, this is actually a book that's about all of Agatha Christie's writing, but you're probably of the same age as me. A lot of these images you would see, you know, in your John Menzies stores, and you would see these images like a big giant wasp attacking an airplane, you know, or a skull with a rose, and there'd be like a drop of blood in the rose, and they were kind of very intriguing imageries. And I like the whole idea of beyond the books, art that encompassed everything. So the visuals on the cover were part of the art, the typeface was part of the art. If you were watching the movie, the music was part of it. It wasn't just about the performances, the script. And as I say, there's some bizarre versions, which I've also really enjoyed seeing. There's a Japanese anime series of Poirot and Marple, where Poirot's one of his assistants, as well as the one you get in the books, Hastings, is a little girl who's got a pet duck, and the little duck goes along and questions suspects. So in something like the ABC murders or something, just got my visual guides with me, the ABC murders, you'll have, one of the daughters of the house has been horribly strangled, and the Poirot, the duck, and the little girl will go to question him, and the mum's crying, and the duck's quack, quack, quack. But I do, you know, I won't go, wait a minute, this is not true to Agatha Christie's ethos. I still have to see it. I have to know about it, you know, which is a strange thing. But the best of them, I can watch again and again and again. And if I feel kind of troubled or I really need a place to escape to, very often I will turn to songs and records I love so much, but I can also turn to rewatching my favourite Agatha Christie adaptations and find myself almost transported to this other place that I shared with my mum and I've shared with other people since.
Do you sometimes slip into being a character of one of her books?
I think it's probably affected certain ways I act. I sort of like, I guess, the eccentricity of certain characters. You get these books, these kind of heightened versions of people. And I guess, like when I'm on stage, I don't know if I really thought about it as obvious as that. I definitely present, I guess, a heightened version of myself. I don't sit and think, and what bits of myself will I exaggerate and things like that. But I know that's what I'm doing. The Douglas who goes on stage is me, but it's a heightened version of me, you know. And the characters that you get in these things tend to be kind of very heightened kind of characters, not kind of gritty, kitchen sinky kind of characters. Where, but there's, as I say, there's real deep emotions, and she'd experienced like real grief and heartbreak, and I think that goes through her work.
It's just a lot of artists kind of live in that fantastic interzone between fantasy and reality. And you sort of slip in and out of that kind of world?
In fact, I very often don't actually slip out of that. I very often stay in it. Occasionally I have to give myself a little bit of a kind of slap in the head and go, no, you've got to open your eyes. you've got to pay attention, because it's important, you know, to be aware of and not turn your back on certain things that are happening in the world, or then you become complicit in them. But I also spend an awful lot of time in a world of my own making with, you know, I live in a musical that's called Duglas the Musical, and, you know, I burst into the song while I'm making my breakfast in the morning, singing songs about what I'm doing, or in supermarkets, and I have a cast of animal friends who sit on the couch with me, and, you know, we have pretty good conversations and dance to TV theme tunes, and yeah, so, you know, I think being an artist gives you a license to sort of play all of your life. So many adults go, that's over now, playing's over. Then you maybe slip into it a little bit again when they're a parent, more so maybe even when they're a grandparent. But it's almost like they went, no, I've got to stop. Play's now not part of my life. I think for artists, and I can see it in Agatha Christie's thing as well, it's a thing of giving yourself a license to kind of play. Because, you know, when you're a little kid, you have these kind of fantasies about, oh, maybe the school janitor is actually an evil spy who's going to, you know, you'll all run away when he comes out to give people a row. He's an evil spy, he's a murderer. And so kind of having mind excursions has remained, yeah, a big part of what I'm about, I guess, as a human being and as an artist.